Okay, I just decimated the enemy team and I see kills 19 and 20 right in front of me. All you guys have to do to win is to cap one objective while I single-handedly hold off all of the survivors for you. Come on, they're landing, and... Alright, screw it. I'll just do that again. Hello! I am Aoyolaipe, and I like to hop into top tier matches in War Thunder, and then personally kill the entire enemy team by myself. Welcome to my channel. Alright, time to ruin the game with another French plane. Ho ho! Yeah, you know that country full of snail-eating weirdos who always seem to be rioting over something pointless? Yeah, they make fighter jets apparently, and one of those jets, the Mirage 2000 CS4/CS5, is one of the most requested planes for me to review. So here's the plane, there's a team over there, let's go kill the entire team while I explain how this thing works. And god damn, this plane looks so good. On looks alone, this is probably my favorite plane when you use this skin with it. This plane is really fun, and it's what I'm currently using to grind out the French tech tree backwards. The version I'm flying here is the Mirage 2000 CS5. This is the tech tree version that is virtually identical to the Mirage 2000 CS4 event plane that came out a few months ago. The only difference is that the CS5 carries a few more countermeasures, but once you see the strat here, you realize it doesn't really matter very much. The real reason I'm using the CS5 version is, and I'm going to be honest here, it's not the countermeasures, it's because the weird tech tree shenanigans I'm allowed to pull off with my magic YouTuber powers means it's faster for me, and only me, not you, to grind out the French tech tree with this version of the plane. If you're new here and haven't yet realized what's going on, yes, hello, hi, I cover TTAA, Top Tier Air Arcade. You always hear that TTAA isn't fun, but once you see someone go on some gratuitous killing spree and get away with it, you'll be like, okay, yeah, that did actually look kind of fun. Alright, so first things first, this plane has the two most important things in TTAA, speed and firepower. Once I've used that firepower to kill the first, baker's dozen or so, the speed will make it easier to juggle all the angry survivors who will start chasing you around the map. And the rest of this video will be like 8 to 10 minutes of me elaborating on the finer details of how to do all of that. Now, that doesn't make this plane special. I mean, once you get to rank 7, especially rank 8, like most of the planes have speed and firepower. But everyone who gets their hands on either variant of this particular plane seems to immediately fall in love with it. And I think the reason why is obvious. The missiles in this plane fundamentally work just like an AIM-7 or an R-24 or an AIM-9L or basically any other rank 7 or 8 missile that you're used to, and you will do fine with them if you use them in the same basic way. Now if you're like, but Aoyolaipe, that's a ridiculous generalization, blah 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 stack cards. The key word you missed in the previous sentence was fundamentally. Historically speaking, in the game that is not in real life, the French tech tree tended to have very finicky special snowflake missiles that worked in their own special way. Their acceleration was slow, the proximity fuses took forever to arm, the radar missiles used this weird pulse design that just sucked. However, this plane doesn't have to deal with any of that crap, at least once you get the weapon modifications. This is the first French plane most players will encounter that just has normal-ass missiles that work normally. So if you handed this plane to someone who has done top tier before but has never played top tier France, and they use the missiles just like whatever kinds of missiles they were already used to, then the missiles will actually work. You won't get the most of them, but they will actually work. I'll explain how to get the most out of them in a few minutes. They're not just normal missiles, they're actually really good missiles. In terms of flight performance, I've seen this plane get confused with the very similar looking Mirage 5 base planes, such as the Israeli Kafirs. So the Mirage 2000 CS4/5 does not have the absolutely Looney Tune levels of climb or acceleration that, say, the Kafir C7 has. Like, the Israelis shoved an F4 Phantom engine into their Kafirs, and they are ridiculous. I have found that a low-altitude strategy generally works better for this particular plane. It's still good at climbing, but terrain masking is just too good sometimes. By the way, I've decided to make an official channel motto, and that official motto is, missiles don't go through mountains. Now, it's important to remember that this plane is a delta wing, and a lot of people have trouble flying delta wings. But a whole lot of people have trouble flying delta wings in arcade. Delta wings are great at turning, but have terrible energy retention. That's the basic trade-off they make. Knowing how to exploit that trade-off in realistic can be a really valuable skill. But in arcade, the main skill here is actually figuring out all sorts of dirty and creative ways to make sure you never have to make that trade-off. In TTAA, afterburners are capped, so even after accounting for the altered flight models, delta wings actually bleed energy way faster, and it takes you way longer to get it back. And all of that happens in an environment that is ludicrously high threat. And I have an impeccably timed example right here of what to do. So there's an F-104 coming at me right now, and I'm too slow at the moment to simply outrun him. So, pop quiz. Do I, A, honorably turn fight a plane I can easily outturn and then kill him with the weapons I have on reload? Or do I, B, use positioning, C, use positioning, or D, use positioning? The answer is I'm going to use positioning. My airfield is nearby, so I'm going to make a beeline for it and try to turn fight him in the AAA cover. The AAA isn't for him per se, it's effectively insurance against any of his teammates trying to fly over here and third party me. If that happens, I can set both of them up to be killed by the AAA, much easier than I can kill both of them myself at the same time while at low speed. Remember, in arcade, winning a 1v1 rate fight isn't the tricky part. Winning a 1v1 rate part without getting third partied is the tricky part, especially if you're in a Delta Wing. The F-104 decided to fly away, which is the smart move here. Most players take the bait. This is actually really concerning to me because it shows the guy is at least a competent player, and once a player goes out of their way to focus me, they tend to keep doing it later on in the match. I would normally make a mental note to kill him specifically on sight for the rest of the match, but I forgot his name. So I'm just going to make all F-104s priority kill on sight targets instead. And now I'm going to shoot this prop plane with a radar missile. There's always that one guy who brings a prop plane into these battles. I know my thumbnail probably says I killed 19 top tier players or whatever, but okay, maybe that one shouldn't have counted. Okay, now the ideal strategy of this plane, and things get messy in practice of course, but the ideal strategy I found with this plane was to come in fast and low and take the 530Ds, which are very good Doppler missiles. This plane carries 2 of them. And I hit the highest threat planes with them as I'm coming in. And the highest threat planes tend to be the ones that are the fastest planes. Hold on, let me pause that thought for just a second while I gun kill this F-14. Bye-bye! In addition to the 530Ds, this plane carries 2 Magic 2 infrared missiles. I'll save these for either low threat targets or for high threat targets that don't have flares. Then I'll use countermeasures to cover my escape as I bob and weave over hills, ridges, and trees. The ground clutter and chaff makes it very hard to get a good radar lock on me, and the flares and trees tend to make it very hard to hit me with an infrared missile. Remember, infrared missiles tend to curve a bit to reach you, so if you're extremely low to the ground in a wooded area, they will generally just curve themselves into a tree. Then I can just head far away to reload, circle around, and repeat the process. If the enemy team wants a good way to kill me, they'll need to chase me down to force a close range fight. If I have to turn, I'll lose all my speed and get dogpiled by angry survivors. But hold on, if I just killed the fast semi-planes on the way in and I'm keeping my own speed up, then how will they chase me down? Good question. I'll let you know when someone else comes up with an answer for me. One of the many secrets to top tier air arcade is to balance countermeasure use with missile use. This plane only has 4 missiles, and you can get off 4 good shots really fast with them. That means you don't need that many countermeasures because you aren't going to be in a high threat area for a long time. This is why I really don't like the Su-27 in arcade. It has a lot of missiles that take a long time to get off, but it only has a relatively small amount of countermeasures. Side note, I see comments under every video asking me to review the Su-27. It is by far the most requested plane, and I already reviewed it like months ago when it came out. If you can't find it, it's the video that has Su-27 in the title and a picture of an Su-27 in the thumbnail. Speaking of the comments, I will get a lot of "Bah, bah, you didn't mention this, bah" comments if I don't mention a quirk of the Magic 2. The Magic 2 is IRCCM. IRCCM does not make it hard to flare the missile. IRCCM makes it hard to flare the missile in the rear aspect only. So this isn't like using an AIM-9M where it's just hard to flare from any direction. If an opponent is directly in front of you in less than 3 or preferably 2 kilometers away and you fire Magic 2 directly into their engine, it'll be almost impossible to flare. If you fire it in a head-on from that range, it will be very easy to flare. Now, the issue is that maneuvering behind an enemy requires spending a lot of time and expending a lot of energy while in a high-threat area. So if I really need someone dead, I'll just use a 530D. That radar missile is hard to dodge or chaff from any angle. If my opponent happens to be in an ideal position using Magic 2 on them, then great, I'll just do that and save myself a 530D. Okay, so I'm now being attacked by an F8 player. F8s are one of only 2 planes that scare me, even if they have been fully up-tiered, or even more than fully up-tiered. The other one is a Big 23. The reason why is that F8s have an amazing blend of speed, maneuverability, firepower, and energy retention. And F8 doesn't have many weak spots that you can target, and if one of them gets close, it can force a rate fight that I just can't win while I'm in this plane. This F8 player, by the way, knows what he's doing because he's using AIM-9Ds to energy trap me. AIM-9Ds can be flared, but I generally need to turn to make the flares effective. Every time I turn, he cuts the corner and gets closer. The closer the missile, the harder I need to turn, the more I can cut the corner, and he's timing them just right to make this as painful as possible. My best move is to hold him off long enough that I can reach friendly players and set them up for a shot on him for me. And they forced that F8 player to break off just at the right time, right as he had me. And since I don't want to take any chances, I circle back and kill that F8 with a 530D. Playing TTAA is a bit like fighting someone to the death in a Bed Bath & Beyond. you might as well throw the kitchen sink at the guy. I mean, it's not even your kitchen sink. But back to the 530D for a second. The 530D is an all-around amazing missile for this battle rating. It's a bit slower to accelerate than most other radar missiles, and the proximity fuse seems to take a second or two to arm, so it's kind of meh at short range, but that's about it. It is otherwise extremely good. The only caveat I'll make is that the 530D is really fast once it gets up to speed, yes, but the low acceleration reduces practical range. If that sounds like a bunch of gibberish, I have a very fun guide explaining this. The 530Ds will work fine if you ignore this topic, but they will work even better if you don't. The 530D is an upgraded version of 530F, and I heard another YouTuber say that's because D comes after F in the French alphabet. So I was like, hey, that's cool. I wonder what the French alphabet looks like. So I googled it, and all I saw was the English alphabet over and over again. So I called a friend of mine who is a literal card-carrying Frenchman to ask him about the A, B, C, holes, or whatever the French alphabet is called. I don't know how many French people I just offended, but I hope it was a lot. And he said that F actually comes after D in the French alphabet because French uses basically the same alphabet as English. So I don't know why it's called the 530D. France commits all sorts of petty crimes against language, and also business, food, fashion, West Africa, good manners, and good taste. Plus, all the taxi drivers there are really rude. So I'm sure there's a reason, I just don't understand what it is. In other news, you guys remember how the ballistic lead indicator system is just really super busted in arcade, and there appeared to be dumb squabbling over whose job it was to fix it, and the solution was to tell everyone to spam a bug report? Well, it now has such a cartoonishly excessive number of upvotes for a bug report that Gaijin has officially acknowledged it. And all I can say is, more! More! Spam it harder! It hasn't been fixed yet. Why take chances? The link is in the description again. But getting back to the game in front of us, as you can see, I just wiped out the whole enemy team, except for one little F-80 that spawns in late, and the match ends as I'm lining up a magic 2-shot on kill number 20. You know, I don't like leaving survivors, but I guess I can live with that. Anyways, if you subscribe and ring the bell, you won't need to remember how to spell Aoyolaipe next time you want to watch one of my videos.